Hi, Julia. It's great to see you. How are you?
Oh, I'm good. I'm so happy to be here. Thank you so much for having me, and I can't wait to chat to you and everyone else who's listening.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a great episode. There's so much that we can talk about. I mean, meditation is such a big part of my own life, and so something that it's a topic that I've been really looking forward to bringing to our audience as
Yeah.
well.
What
So
does your
first,
meditation practice look like? I would love to
oh,
know.
yeah. So that would be so I would love it to be my daily habit. That's what I'm really striving for. As of yet, I haven't made it a daily habit. And from a mindset perspective, that's purely priorities. So I
Yeah.
need to prioritize it because I love meditating. So at the
Hmm.
moment, I don't know if this is controversial in the kind of meditation. It's not like a purist meditation practice, but I use a Muse headband. Got
Okay.
it
Yeah.
here actually.
Yeah. I used to teach with those actually in one studio that I
Ah.
worked at.
That's interesting because I always wonder, like, when I say to friends, they're like, "You need technology to meditate. That goes against everything." That's but I like it. I like that
Yeah.
kind of game, like what do you call it? Gamifying it.
Yeah, and honestly, you just have to find what works for you? So even if people are like, "Oh, don't use technology." I mean, if it works for you, then use the technology and use what you can.
Yeah, that's what I find, and it
Mhm.
will pop up on my phone to remind me that I haven't meditated. So today, I've had a really, really busy day, and I could feel this often happens when I'm busy. I could feel like everything was getting tense, and so I had half an hour between coaching, and I thought, you know what? Instead of hopping onto my emails and kind of firefighting for 30 minutes, I'm going to go upstairs. I'm sitting where I'm sitting right now, which is my kind of cozy area of my bedroom, and I lit some sage. So I got some sage. Oh,
I
there you
love it.
go. and and I sat down with my muse for 20 minutes, and I had the sound of the beach, and it was just so nice. And
Mhm.
every time the sound gets louder when your thoughts kind of go a bit chaotic, and I could hear like the waves are crashing, and like
Yeah.
as my mind was going to my emails and my to-do list, and then I just kind of brought it back to my body. And then in Muse, obviously you hear the birds when everything's really calm, and you know that like it's the perfect because you hear the birds. And
Mhm.
for me, like those 20 minutes, it felt so good, and I didn't feel guilty either. I think sometimes we feel that if we take some time out, we're then going to feel like we're on the back foot or we're feeling guilty. But I
Yeah.
didn't. And I went into my coaching feeling so much more present than I would have done, because I would have like probably been late because my emails would have taken a lot longer than I needed. So actually that 20 minutes was so needed.
It is crazy how much of a shift it can create in such a short amount of time.
Yeah, exactly. And I will
Mhm.
be completely honest, in terms of accountability, I think knowing that I was going to be talking to you also helped. And accountability is key, which we'll touch upon kind of probably later in the episode. But
Mhm.
knowing that actually, I'm going to be talking to someone, I want to tell her that I meditate.
Yeah.
That gave me a nudge to do it. So
Mhm.
before we kind of jump right into meditation and the practice as a whole, I'd love to know your journey into this world of kind of meditation.
Yeah, so I actually started my background is in high performance athletics, which is really fun. I was on the junior national team of Canada for sprint kayaking. So
Wow.
that's why I'm so excited to be here. I don't often get to talk in these spaces where there are a lot of athletes, so it just feels like a piece of home, if that makes sense. But yeah, so I actually was not into meditation when I was an athlete, which is kind of interesting. I grew up with a dad who was a sports psychologist, worked with tons of athletes. And so I was just kind of around that all the time and around mindset training and how to focus through distractions to really become the best version of yourself and the best athlete of your, like the best athlete you can be as well. But my meditation journey started a little bit later down the line when I actually stopped sport and I was feeling really lost, wasn't sure what I was going to do. And you kind of lose that sense of identity when you've been training for something for so long. So I got into yoga as just a way to keep up like a more gentle form of training. And that's when I found meditation. And it was one of those things that I did, and I just immediately fell in love, and I immediately knew that it was something that I wanted to do and something that I wanted to teach. And I had never felt that with anything before, but it really felt like fate, if you will.
Yeah.
And yeah, brain health became really important to me. Alzheimer's prevention, just making sure that you're taking care of your brain, because as athletes, you know, you spend so much time taking care of your physical body, and you really understand what's going on a physiological level. You're fueling your body with good foods that are going to elevate your performance. But then when you think about it, why aren't we doing those things with our mind? Why aren't we training our mind in the same way that we train our physical body? Because without your brain, you lose the functioning of everything. So that just became really, really important to me. How can I protect and preserve my brain to ensure that I'm living like the most joyful life possible?
Yeah. Oh my God. So this will go out as a video, but those that are listening on the podcast are missing my huge smile as you're talking, because there's so much that we have in common. So a big part of, what I do is around brain optimization. My PhD is in dementia care. And I really
Oh,
want to
wow.
promote how, so my PhD was using music in dementia care, and how
Wow, that's
music
so
can
cool.
help people living with dementia, with Alzheimer's disease.
Mhm.
But then from a kind of high performance side, I then started to look at stress. And, you know, stress is one of the many. There are lots of risk factors for dementia. And obviously, as you know, there are different types of dementia, but
Mhm.
prolonged stress is one of the risk factors for getting dementia and developing dementia. And so looking at actually how we can take care of our brain, you know, not waiting until we reach a certain age, actually looking, and obviously dementia isn't just an older person's condition either. It is, younger
Mhm.
people have dementia too.
Yeah.
So looking at how we can optimize our brain, how we can have less stress and actually take care of our brain, especially as high performers. Because I
Mhm.
think, you know, high performers in the sports world, like you said, we focus so much on the physical health, and we don't consider the brain health so much, or kind of brain optimization. And yes,
Mhm.
there's the mindset, which, you know, is becoming a much bigger piece now, but I think we've still got a long way to go. But mindset is only a part of it. And there is also stuff around actual brain health, brain optimization, because the mind and the brain are different. They're very much interlinked. But
Definitely.
taking care of our brain performance
Mhm. And
is
not to
so
mention the stress too that you're under as an athlete, you know, and when you have those high expectations and those high pressures that you put on yourself, for good reason, because you want to accomplish this amazing goal, it makes sense. But you also have to be looking at the emotional side of it, and how is this really affecting the health of my mind and my brain?
Yeah. So from a meditation perspective then, how can that help with that side of it, with kind of taking care of your brain? You know, what are the benefits, and what have your own experiences been as well?
Yeah, so there's so many benefits. I mean, I could go on and on. I'd say for myself, what I've really noticed is just this ability to create space in my life. And so space between action and thought, space between what I have to do later on and what's happening right now. It just creates this nice gap where you can just kind of soften and relax and let yourself go into a more relaxed place. I find that from a relationship standpoint, it's interesting because the more you meditate, the more you realize that the things that people do, like, you're not necessarily as triggered by them as you would be before. And you're not triggered by much, you know, you're just more relaxed and more at ease, at peace. And the things that come, you allow them to come, and then they go, and everything ebbs and flows. So I find it's just created this really deep sense of peace in my life, and this sense of spaciousness, which I love. And I mean, if you look at more the benefits from the physical side, obviously it can help really with sleep, people who suffer from insomnia. I mean, I've worked with people who have taken insomnia medication for years, and then after a short amount of time meditating, they've been able to actually reduce or eliminate that medication. And while I would never suggest that without, you know, consulting a doctor, it is so interesting to see the impact that it can have on a physiological level. So sleep is a big thing, reduces blood pressure, and yeah, just in terms of the brain waves that happen. I'm kind of a nerd for this stuff,
Me
but
too.
yeah, it really does wonders for your brain in that you can shrink different aspects and different parts of the brain. You've got your amygdala, which I'm sure you know, it's your center for fear and stress. And so what happens is that gray matter, the more you meditate, because of neuroplasticity, the gray matter shrinks, meaning you're less prone to get stressed out over small things. You're less prone to be triggered easily by things that would have previously bothered you, and you're better able to have a handle on your emotions. At the same time as your amygdala is shrinking, your hippocampus, the gray matter in that area of your brain, center for learning, spatial orientation, that is increasing. And that's really good because that means you're better going to be able to learn things, retain information. And this is kind of where the dementia and Alzheimer's prevention comes into, like really focusing on the hippocampus, center of the brain. But so many benefits.
Yeah. Oh God, I could geek out on this too. It's
Yeah.
incredible. And so I just want to go back to that first point you were saying about making more space in our day.
Mm-hmm.
And I know this from my own clients, how difficult as high performers it can be to pause because it's almost like we tell ourselves that if we pause, if we do create space in our day, we're not high performing because we're not achieving, we're not striving, because we almost feel like we need to be like a Duracell bunny and just keep going and going and going.
Yeah.
But actually in reality we can't carry on that trajectory. So
No.
having that space in your day and kind of the importance of that is
Yeah.
really key.
And it's not sustainable too to be always going all the time. So if you're an athlete or anyone who's like, I want to meditate, but it's just a waste of my time, like I need to be doing things at all times, you can think of it as, no, you're doing something really productive right now. Sometimes that's the key to getting people in the space, in the meditation space, and also just relaxing. Like if you schedule it in or treat it like you would treat any other training session and think of it as something that is productive, that can kind of get your foot in the door a little bit. And then as you practice it more and more, you realize, no, this is actually about cultivating a sense of space. This is about cultivating ease and peace. And just taking a pause, taking a moment for yourself in your day to reflect on anything you want to reflect on, or just simply connecting to your breath. It doesn't need to be complicated. You can make it so simple by just focusing on your inhale and then focusing on your exhale, and just repeat that over and over again. But yeah, if you need to view it as you're doing something to kind of be a step ahead in your life, just try and view it as your mindset. This is a mindset tool and you're going to use it and it's going to enhance your life because of it.
Yeah, I love that. And it's from a mindset perspective, it's shifting how we see productivity. Being productive isn't being on the go all the time. Actually, that's counterproductive because, like you say, you can't sustain that. So seeing meditation as still being productive, that's so, so true. And I find the same. So part of my background is I'm a specialist in rest and recovery as well in sports. And I mean, meditation comes under that. There was a huge section in my course actually that I did around meditation and the importance of meditation, but they spoke about it only in a rest and recovery perspective, whereas using it kind of on a daily basis is really beneficial. But it's the same with rest and recovery in terms of our mindset. Often it's very easy to kind of skip rest day or feel a bit lost on that day because you're not training, or you feel that you're not being productive. But in actual fact, you need that time because your body needs it, your mind needs it to then go back, and you are still performing at your best because you're giving yourself time for rest and recovery.
Yeah, and
So
you're
seeing
following a
meditation.
plan. Yeah, and
Yeah.
rest and recovery has to be a part of that plan. Otherwise, I mean, like you said, who can sustain that? It's not optimal.
No, and it doesn't mean that you're kind of any better than someone else. I think often we feel that, especially as athletes, is that, well, while we're not training or while we're taking a pause, someone else is out there and they're going to beat us. But actually, it really isn't that the case. You're actually more
Mhm.
likely to sustain it and achieve your best if you
Yeah.
take these moments to sort of pause.
And if you look at also, think about the tapering process right before a big competition too. I mean, it's different for every sport, but typically right before you have a big competition or a big race, you're reducing your training and it's short bursts of energy that you expend. And that's designed for a specific reason so that when the time comes for your competition, it's kind of like you start at baseline and then you drop and then you can peak and perform at your best. So it's like
Yeah.
tapering.
Yeah, I think, stuff like that, if we kind of shift our mindset to see meditation as that form, I think we're much more likely to kind of be on board with it. And so from your experience, especially from the sports side, are more coaches, for individual athletes, for teams, are they starting to adopt kind of this like mindset meditation practice?
I feel like, yeah, I mean, it's been a while since I've been kind of an athlete in that space, but I feel like the more, like when I talk to younger kids who I know who are athletes, they are familiar with meditation and they do it as a group and they bring someone in or, have a meditation teacher that they use. And yeah, it's quite common now. And I think that probably sports psychology was a good introduction to that, because with sports psychology, you're focusing on your mind. And so meditation is kind of like a natural progression from that of how can we calm down the mind. So yeah, I feel like it's quite common.
And you're so right. You mentioned about kind of like the younger generation. I think that's really where if we can start it with kids, and talking about it at school, even just today, I've got a 5 and a 7-year-old. I think one of my daughters walked past while we were recording, and their teacher came out and gave me a book about how to feel calm. And I was really interested because one of my daughters kind of struggles with, like, she gets very like frustrated and kind of we still have tantrums and things, and we're trying to talk through emotions with her.
Mhm.
And so the teacher gave me this book on kind of like having like a calm corner, and meditation was one of the things in there, and it was about talking to your child about using meditation, and you're focusing on your breath, and when you're feeling angry, just pausing for a moment and focusing on your breath. And I thought that was fantastic that
So good.
she's 5 and they're starting to talk to her around mindfulness, meditation, focusing on your breathing, and kind of the like exploring your emotions, actually just taking some time out to kind of experience, how am I feeling right now, and tap
Mhm.
into it.
She's
So
gonna
that's
be
so
so
key.
set up when she's older, if she's learning it at 5, oh my gosh,
Yeah.
be the calmest person out there.
Hopefully. I think the more that we can do it though at that kind of young age, and for like young athletes as well, coming
Mhm,
into, if they then go on to be professional, it's or at any level really,
mhm,
meditation is so beneficial.
mhm.
So I'd like to, oh sorry, do you want to
No,
go?
I was just gonna say there's so many different types as well. So, you can use it to be really calm and to reduce your stress levels before competition or before you have to perform in it could be school, you know what I mean? It doesn't matter. It could be anything, any time where you need to reduce your stress level. But also you have this other side of it, which is really kind of visualization based and really honing in on what it is you want to happen in your life and visualizing it to the point where it happens. And I mean, you can use this as a sense of manifestation, but also when you look at it from an athlete perspective, this is really cool. I'll share it with you. So my dad was a sports psychologist, like I mentioned, and I remember him telling me he was working with this team of kayakers in Canada, and it was the Olympics or something, maybe world champs, I'm not sure. And he was working on visualization with this group, and they had them in 2 separate rooms, and they said, ready, set, go. And in their mind, they were to picture their race and every part of it, every stroke, because they were kayakers, or every push and pull, every single part of the race, they were to visualize it with as much detail and clarity as possible. And while they did this, they set a timer. And from the start of the race to the end of the race, they stopped it. And because it was 2 team members, so 2 people in a boat, both of the people had the exact same time, like to the millisecond. This is how meticulous and how planned they were in their mind, using their visualization to be able to really see every part of the race. And they ended it at the same time. They're a team, which is so cool. And they were in opposite rooms, like you can't fake that, or it's crazy.
No, and that shows, how important stuff like this is. And I'm really glad that you mentioned visualization, because I think often when, especially if you're not familiar with meditation, you kind of picture it as, omming, like sat there cross-legged, omming, just being calm. And actually how, especially from a sports perspective, it's not just about calming everything down. You can use it for mental performance. I love visualization. So I often listen to Gabby Bernstein.
Oh, she's the
And
best.
I love her. And she's got a really good visualization meditation. And I do that, and I journal. Every day I journal on my on my visualization. And it's fantastic, tapping into that. And from a sports perspective, I've been listening to a lot around basketball lately and around visualization, actually kind of visualizing every maneuver that you're going to do on the court, and tapping into the emotions, who's there, who can you see, what does it feel like, what are those emotions that you're going through, and actually placing yourself in that position through visualization is super key. And that is meditation. We often kind of think of them as separate things, but that's just another form of meditating. So I think, you mentioned about there are lots of different ways, and so we've spoken about visualization. I think that's one thing about kind of why we maybe don't get into a meditation practice, is because it's overwhelming. So you Google it and it's almost like you just don't have a clue where to start. And I remember when I started meditating, a friend was saying to me, "Oh, like what kind of meditation are you doing?" And I'm like, "Oh, I don't have a clue." And then that imposter syndrome comes in, and it's like, "Oh, maybe I'm doing the wrong one." Can you kind of touch upon that? Where do we even begin with meditating?
It can be so overwhelming. I get that. And I just want to say, like, right off the bat, you can't meditate wrong. So my teacher always used to tell me, the only bad meditation is the one that you don't do. It's impossible to do it wrong. Like, you are good. You are doing it correctly. If there's one thing you need to remind yourself of when you're trying to meditate, it's, I'm doing it right. I'm doing it right. It's all good. I'm doing it right. But yeah, where to start? I find that guided meditations are always a really beautiful entry point. So sometimes it can be intimidating to sit there with our thoughts and do it ourselves, because we're not sure what we're supposed to be thinking of, or we feel like we're doing it wrong. Now you know that there's no way to do it wrong. But guided meditations are a really great way. So if you can find someone that you resonate with, and you can just, Google on YouTube, meditation for anxiety, meditation for this, meditation for that, and just click on whatever pops up first, whatever you feel drawn to, or whatever you resonate with naturally, and try it out. And there's so many great apps out there as well. But I'd say try with guided meditation first. That's a really nice entry point. You're supported because you're doing it with a teacher, and you can find so many free ones as well. So I would say guided meditation, beautiful place to start. If you're wanting to try it out on your own, I love that. So awesome. And how you can do it is literally just take your phone, set a timer for, let's say, 3 minutes to start, and sit and just focus on your breath. So like I said before, just inhale, exhale, pay attention to the flow of your breath, how it feels as your breath enters and leaves your body, and just let it almost be like a wave and just fall into the rhythm of your breath. And just do that over and over again. And when your mind drifts to what you have to do later on, you bring it back to your breath. When your mind drifts to what you want to eat for dinner, you just bring it back, come back to your breath. When your mind drifts to something you said 5 years ago in that one conversation, it will drift away, and then you just bring it back to your breath. So that is so simple. In its essence, that's what meditation is. It's just connecting to the breath. So that's also a really great way to start just setting a timer, and it can be for any length of time. You know, it doesn't have to be 20, 30 minutes. You have to start small and build your way up. And there's probably a lot of type A's listening to this. They're like, no, I want to do 30 minutes right off the bat. But just ask yourself, is that sustainable? You know, if you want to really be committing to a daily meditation practice, just gently get yourself in the door. Start by doing 3 minutes, then maybe go to 5 minutes. And once you're doing 5 minutes every day, then go to 12 minutes or 10 minutes, you know? So you really want to work and build your way up slowly. But guided meditation is a great way to start. Otherwise, just set a timer and focus on your breath. Mantras are really beautiful. I use these a lot in both my personal practices and the practices that I teach. I find that mantra is so great. If, for those who don't know, it's just a word or phrase that you repeat over and over again in your mind. This doesn't have to be Sanskrit or any type of ancient chant. It can be really relatable and modern and something that resonates with you. So you could be like, I am at peace. You could say, may I feel calm, or you could just repeat one word over and over again, like focus, focus, focus. Whatever you're working on in your life and whatever you feel you need, create a little mantra out of that. And it can be kind of sectioned as like, I am this. So I am calm, I am focused, I am strong, whatever you need. Or it can be a kind of like almost a receptive state, like, may I be this, may I be that. Or just simplify it and repeat the word itself. So mantra is awesome. Same sort of thing. Set your timer for 5 minutes and just repeat this mantra. And the thing with meditation is that it's a constant drifting back and forth. So you're going to have thoughts. It doesn't mean you're meditating wrong. It means your brain is working the way it's supposed to. It's something to be really grateful for, the fact that you're having these thoughts and the fact that your brain is working. So when it happens, just self-compassion, let it be easy. You know, you don't have to beat yourself up over it. Just simply come back to your point of focus, whether that's a mantra, breath, or the voice of the teacher who's guiding you through the meditation. So I would say those are probably the simplest places to start. Visualization can be a little challenging to do on your own, sometimes just because you want someone to walk you through all of the steps. That being said, if you know exactly what you want to visualize, like you're trying to visualize a race or how you want to feel or a big dream or goal of yours, then you can sit and visualize it all you want, really picturing how do you feel when you've accomplished this thing, or how does the act feel, and who's there, like you said, what's around you, what are your surroundings like, just picturing it as if it were playing on a movie screen in your mind and really getting familiar with it, seeing the ins and outs of it. But yeah, mantra and breath-based meditation are really simple to do on your own. Otherwise, guided meditation is the way to go, I'd say.
Amazing. And thank you for touching on some of the obstacles as well, because yeah, I think for me, part of the reason why it's not a daily habit is because I have like daily non-negotiables that seem like they're quite negotiable every day. I set them as like, these are things I'm definitely going to do, and then I somehow don't stick to them. But meditation, when I started, I was like, I'm going to do 20 minutes every day, because I don't know why, I just picked 20 minutes out of thin air, I think, or I'd heard someone else talk about it. Mm-hmm. And for me, that was kind of a bit unachievable. Whereas actually, yeah, if I'd set it as like 3 minutes, and like you're saying, you know, type A personality, and I am definitely, and so many of us listening, you do feel like, like 3 minutes, that's not very long. We need 30 minutes. Mm-hmm. And actually, if you're really new to it, that's much harder to sustain. And the other one is about the thoughts coming in. Like, I'm so glad that you said that, because again, I think as high achievers, we can get, I get really frustrated with myself. You know, why are these thoughts coming into my head? I'm meditating and I'm not doing it good enough, because I'm now thinking about, what I had for breakfast, or something I need to mark for work, or whatever it is. Mm-hmm. And you beat yourself up and you get frustrated. And when I'm on Muse, that's then when like the waves are going crazy and I'm like, I'm really annoyed with myself. And you can't then it's really hard to bring yourself back to it. So it's almost like before you start meditating, to know that that's really normal. Is that, like you say, it's just your brain working. it's your brain working.
And it takes
Yeah.
practice, like you're never going to have a totally blank slate. And I don't mean that in a discouraging way at all. I just mean it from a realistic standpoint. Like, we are human. This is what our brains are designed to do. And if you can go into it through the lens of self-compassion and through the lens of just curiosity, you're just doing this to try it out, to see how it helps you in any way. And it doesn't need to be so serious. You can have fun with it and test out what works for you and what doesn't work for you. And yeah, just kind of let go of some of that pressure to get it perfect or to be meditating, perfectly all the time.
I love that, to have fun with it. And, as a creative person as well, to kind of think of it as a creative pursuit and practice, reminding yourself that this is a practice, just like anything else. You don't expect to suddenly be able to run a marathon. You
Yeah.
have to build it up slowly. And we accept that, and we have our training plan and whatever. So it's almost seeing it like that. So you mentioned about the kind of timing and some different types of meditation. How about the environment? Again, kind of, we're always striving for, like, is there like an optimum environment to meditate? Is there an optimum position to sit in? Or
Yeah, great questions. So different teachers will tell you different things. If you couldn't already tell, I'm pretty like, it's so impactful and effective, and there's definitely strategy behind it. At the same time, I think it's meant to be relaxing, or like a relaxed practice, I should say. And so that means that you want to do anything you can to ensure that you're going to continue coming back. So that doesn't mean, or maybe it's not like sitting cross-legged with your back super straight for you, because that doesn't feel comfortable. You have to make sure you're comfortable in your body. So the only way you're going to meditate is if you're lying down on your couch, so be it. That's awesome. Anything to, again, get your foot in the door, anything to ensure that you're practicing. So ideally you're sitting and you have a relaxed yet straight spine, but it doesn't have to look like that. You can be sitting on your couch. You can be leaning on the headrest against your bed. Just make sure that it's comfortable. Sometimes it's nice to elevate your hips. So sitting on a cushion or a yoga block, if you have one, that can prevent your legs from falling asleep and help your low back a little bit. But just anything that ensures that you're comfortable is the most important thing in terms of physical position. As for environment, it's funny because this is a practice in my mind that's designed for real life. So ideally, you're in a space where you don't have partners or kids or people, roommates, around you. But sometimes that's not real life. You've got the kids running around and you have roommates making food in the kitchen and you have all those things. So you just want to get it in any way you can. First thing in the morning is great because typically you are by yourself in that time or have more quiet time. So you can do it first thing in the morning. And if you have a calm space somewhere you love, that's great. But I meditate everywhere and anywhere. Like sometimes I'll do it on my couch. Sometimes I'll do it in my bed. Sometimes I'll do it on the floor. Sometimes I'll do it in the car. Car meditations are great to create that space, especially if you're going to practice or, anywhere where you have like just 2 minutes to sit in your car before you exit the vehicle and move or carry on with whatever you have going on. But anywhere and anywhere. Ideally, you wouldn't be interrupted, but sometimes that's not real life. So you just take it as it comes, and yeah, it is what it is. But if you can have a quiet space, that's great. Somewhere that feels really nurturing for you, somewhere where you can relax with plants or your sage or crystals or, all that woo-woo fun stuff. But
just behind my camera, I've got like a whole load of crystals and a salt lamp. And
yeah, I'm like right there with you on my table. So many crystals. But yeah, anywhere that feels good, and it doesn't need to be fancy, and it can be anywhere in your house. Outside is really nice to meditate if you've got access to a beach or a park. Meditating in nature is so great because not only are you grounding, but you can use the sounds around you to take you deeper into your practice. So you can be listening to the wind, and you can be listening to the birds or the waves crashing on the shore. And it's such a good way to have like a full sensory meditation experience.
Now there are two questions that I want to ask you. I'm going to follow on from that point though, before I ask the next one. But thinking about kind of being outside in nature and let's say kind of going for a run, is there such a thing? I mean, I'm guessing mindfulness and meditation are slightly different, or like mindfulness is a meditation practice, maybe. But is there
Yeah,
such a thing as like mindful running or like meditation running?
definitely. I mean, there are some tracks that you can listen to, like guided meditations while you run. I've never tried that personally, but you do get into this flow state and this meditative state whenever you're exercising or, running, walking, things like that. So definitely, I would say if you can, try and opt for a practice where you're still. Sometimes we run away from this stillness because it feels uncomfortable, or because, like we talked about earlier, you don't feel like you're being productive just sitting still doing nothing. But it's so important to get that sense of stillness. And so if a running meditation is what feels best for you, then obviously do it. But I would encourage you to just try with a stillness practice. Just try getting still, because the benefits that that's going to bring for your nervous system and for your life really is going to be tenfold. So I would, if you're opting for the running meditation because you feel uncomfortable sitting still, then just be aware of that, and just be
That's
aware of that.
fascinating, because
Mhm.
Muse have just updated their app, and one of the things that they now track is stillness. And I was like, my high achiever nature was like, oh, I got 96% on stillness. Yes. But that's really interesting. They're now measuring stillness. And so I was wondering about, so there are real benefits to the being still, which
Mhm.
actually leads really well onto my other question, because I wanted to come back to it. So what do you feel about falling asleep to meditation? Because I find I fall asleep very, very easily, and I can't
Mhm.
meditate in bed for that reason. I can't
Yeah.
meditate lying down. At the end of a yoga, I'd always be the one where the teacher would have to gently nudge because I'd be asleep.
Yeah. So common falling asleep during meditation. And what I would say to that is there's kind of two avenues to look at it, or two lenses to look at it through. So on the one hand, if you think of it in terms of you've relaxed your body so much to the ability, or to the point where you have the ability to fall asleep naturally, that's a really cool thing, just being able to relax yourself so much where your body feels safe enough to relax and where your nervous system is so calm. So you probably needed the rest if you fell asleep during a meditation. So you can look at it that way, and okay, I just gave myself this time and my body showed me that what I needed was more sleep. My body showed me that what I needed was deeper rest. So you can look at it from that lens. From the other perspective, you can look at it as, okay, what's my intention with meditating here? For this meditation today, do I want to be super relaxed, or do I want to feel energized? And then pick your meditation style based on that. So maybe a breath meditation isn't going to be the most supportive for you if you're wanting to feel more energized. When we're breathing really slowly and deeply, the brain just kind of starts to slow, our body starts to slow, which allows us to fall asleep easy. And when we're doing meditations, especially with our exhales, when you extend your exhales longer and make them a little bit, like a few counts longer than your inhales, that's a really, really restorative thing to do for your body. And so you're probably going to fall asleep after an extended period of time with those longer exhales. But what you can do instead, if you want to feel energized, if your intention is to feel really alert and awake after your meditation, instead focus on your inhales. So taking in as much air as possible as you breathe in, and don't have it forced, but kind of like you're really breathing in, like feel the energy kind of coming in through you, and inhale that energy, and then release, but make sure that your inhales are longer than your exhales. So that's a little tip if you want to prevent yourself from falling asleep. Typically with meditation, we get in this zone where we're so relaxed, our exhales are longer, 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 and that's when we fall asleep. So it just depends on what your intention is. Falling asleep in itself during meditation is not bad. at all. Again, like, there's no way of doing this wrong. But if you are meditating and consistently falling asleep and you're like, this is not how I want to feel because I'm groggy and all these things, I don't feel relaxed, I just feel stressed about the fact that I fell asleep, then you may want to opt for a more energizing practice, which could look like a specific guided meditation or just really taking air in through your inhales as opposed to your exhales.
That's absolutely fascinating because, yeah, I'd be really frustrated, especially when it was a visualization meditation, because I'd be like, damn it, like I'd wake up and be like, oh, I missed this whole visualization. But I
Yeah.
do, ever since I did pregnancy yoga, so with my 2 daughters, I've always done the inhale for 4 and out for 8. That's like my natural when I want to get into a meditative state. So that's really interesting to see actually the long exhale is possibly going to kind of encourage your body to go into a sleep
Yeah.
state, whereas taking in a longer inhale
And
might be
if
more
you're
energizing.
definitely, and if you're someone who really struggles with sleep, if you start doing that and practicing that at night, just letting your exhales be really long, you're going to fall asleep so quick. So that's a tool too if you struggle with sleep. But yeah, it really just depends on how you're breathing, and that's so cool. There's a million different ways to breathe. It's something that is so simple, but there's so many different techniques and all this breath work that you can do. I mean, there's something called breath of fire, which is like really quick inhales through your nose and out through your nose from your diaphragm, and that's a really energizing one. Like, you're just buzzing after you do that. So yeah. And also looking at, okay, when am I naturally more tired in my day? And then maybe not meditating during those times if you don't want to fall asleep. So if you have a lot of energy at, let's say, noon, try meditating then. And that's something that you can try as well.
Wow, that's fascinating. And I think on the breath side, we could definitely have an episode just on breath work, because that's so, so powerful. And not
Yeah.
just thinking about it just when you're training or when you're competing or racing or whatever it is, the field that you're in, but thinking about breath work outside as well. I think we can definitely have you back on to do a full
Yeah.
episode on breathing. Be fantastic. So I think, thank you so much. I think we've learned so much about meditation, and hopefully it's kind of combated some of the myths as well around what meditation is, what it isn't, and that I love the kind of, there's no perfect way. There's no right or wrong way of meditating. I think that's a massive takeaway for us. So thank you
Yeah,
so much
there's
for coming
no
on, Julia.
thank you so much for having me. There is no one size fits all too. You've got to make it work for you. That's the most important thing. As long as it feels supportive and right for you, then that's the goal.
Yeah, I absolutely love that. Thank you. So how can people find out more about your work, more about what you do? Where can you signpost us to?
So my website is my name, juweliaorlick.com, and I have tons of free guided meditations there, a lot of supportive resources like mantras, and if you hop onto my newsletter, I send out a weekly newsletter that has mantras, guided meditations, all free, and just really there to be of support to you. And there's all different types of themes. So whatever you're working on in your life, I've definitely got a meditation for it. And I would love to meditate with you there.
Yeah, fantastic. Oh, we will definitely see you in there. Thanks so much,
Yeah.
Julia.
Thank you so much for having me, Rosie. This is awesome.
Thank you.